everybody. We're just getting started. Thank you for joining. We're just gonna wait for the artist to go online. Hopefully this works well. Hope you're all having a good Thursday. It's Thursday. I really gotta keep track of the days. Thank you, Lawrence. It is Thursday. Hopefully wherever you are, it's sunny and warm. Right now it's really cold here. But we're just waiting for the artist to join so we can start this thing. Hopefully she joins pretty soon. So we're just playing the waiting game. Yeah, I keep trying to think of things to talk about before the artist shows up. And then right when I think I'm gonna do it, it all goes away. I mean, if anybody's watching any good shows, let me know. I don't know. I'm watching Mandalorian. Oh, there she is. Okay, now we just wait. Hi.
Hi. I just caught that you're watching Mandalorian.
I was like, oh, what to talk about? I was like,
Oh my. Real quick on that. I saw the best. There's been so many Baby Yoda memes out there that are like touching the heart. But the one that I just saw recently was someone being like, how am I supposed to have a happy holidays and enjoy my winter when I know just like, I guess it's true.
It's
so
true.
Stressed out about that baby.
Up right now. I think new episode's tomorrow, so I'm excited. But yeah, like if
Watch that.
Yeah. Oh, you haven't seen it, the new episode?
No, I watched the first ones, but I haven't seen the new stuff that's out.
It's right now. Really watch it. Like I were like, it's on, we have to watch it. Or like the day after, we're like, I think it just came out, so we should let's watch it today.
Yes.
All right. So right now, you look a little bit blurry to me.
Oh,
you look okay?
You look great. Yeah, you're coming in nice and clear. What?
Cool.
Not. Maybe it's because I live out in the woods and don't have great service. So we're gonna have to roll with it, I guess.
Okay, I can hear you well. If you cut off, I'll probably just have you repeat something. But I think I saw Jan. I don't know if you know Jan. There's an artist there.
Hi Jan, thanks for joining.
Yeah. We can wait a little while to see if more people join, and then we can get started. But I was talking to Kiki just now, because we were talking about Hawaii and Rebecca and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
She's like, I'm sending you your Christmas gift. I was like, oh snap.
There's Kiki.
What's
up, Kiki?
No. Yeah. Oh, there she is. Hi, Kiki. I was just talking about
What's
you.
up, Kiki?
All good things.
Got some good homegirls in here.
Yes. She always makes me with her audio messages. I love him.
It's very inspiring. I started audio messaging because of Kiki.
Yeah. All right. Okay. I think we got some more people in, so we can get started. Hello, everybody. For joining. I'm very excited for this artist talk because we're meeting via video messenger, which is kind of cool, different but also exciting. So I would like to introduce everybody to Miss Annea Joanne Umayam, who is a third-generation Ilokano American born artist residing in Coast Salish land, also known as Western Washington. Her exploration in the clay medium has brought her to modern hand-built sculpture, experimenting with various forms of ceramic to diving into eons of old relationships between humans and clay and various fire techniques. So thank you so much for joining, Annea. I'm so excited to have you.
Thank you. It's
So we can just get right into it and start with what inspired you to create art.
okay. Sounds good. You know what? I was just thinking as well. I'd really like to acknowledge the land I'm on right now, which is Skokomish land, and I do live in the Coast Salish region, what is known as Washington State, and I'm very grateful and privileged to be here. I also want to acknowledge my ancestors. I want to also acknowledge my family and friends, my chosen family. I love you so much. And that's
Yeah. So what inspired you to create art?
so I started playing with clay when I was a kid. Mom would make clay out of, there's a recipe for flour and salt, and you mix it with water, and it kind of becomes this tactile form making um, stuff. And it's really fun to play with. So I would make little baby birds and let them dry. And I can't remember what else I made. That was the start. And after that, after my childhood, I stopped playing with clay for about 10-ish years. Didn't revisit it really until I was in my 30s. So it's very much like a circle thing for me because it was something that I had really loved as a child and enjoyed and thrived in. And then to do a lot of things for the last 20 years, come back to it feels good and really grounding. But as far as what inspires me most is children, youth, working with people 18 years and under. And that's what I've been doing as far as my economical work for the last 10-ish years, working with kids. And they've been the biggest inspiration, I'd say, because incorporating clay work with kids has been something that kind of opens up my own inner child work as well. And I think it's really, really good for my mental health. And also another thing that inspires me is the natural world, ecology. So I'm a natural. That doesn't necessarily mean that I went to school for studying just naturalist studies, but I'm highly, highly inspired by our natural world. So birds, mushrooms, trees, moss, water, all of it. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for answering the question. And then the
Mm-hmm.
one is, did you receive support from family and friends?
Absolutely. Yeah, I've received a ton of support from my family that they necessarily know what I'm up to all the time, but they're like, "Oh, that's good, Annea. We love you. We're glad you're doing that." Big hugs. And of course, my mother and my father, like both of them are really artistic people as well, but that's not necessarily something they pursued. And it I think it makes me happy seeing them happy, and it also I know that they're also happy that I'm doing what I love. So there's that. My husband has been a major, major support. Also a ceramic artist as well, but he really helped inspire me to get going on doing ceramics
Yeah,
when I was there. So that was really great. And I'll shout out one of my artists, Lauren Holloway, who is a Seattle artist, and she was the first one who kind of introduced me to um, finding out more about clay and that medium, and together with her to a pottery supply store for the first time really kind of sparked that, and I got my first like big clay and like, yay, what do I do now? And also she taught me how to throw on the table too, so super grateful for that lady.
Cool. And so thank you for answering that as well. And so now we can kind of segue into school. So what schools did you attend?
So I've had an interesting upbringing with school, and it's unique, and I'm very grateful for it. And also, I don't think that I can deny that there are challenges that have come up with my schooling, but I'll address that both of those things are present, and I wouldn't be where I am today if I didn't have the experiences I have. So that being said, I was raised a Seventh-day Adventist, so that's a Christian religion, and from I guess preschool up until I was a senior in high school, I went to a Seventh-day Adventist schooling education system, and that was really, really interesting. And then after that, I ended up just going to community college, and that kind of opened my eyes up to a lot of other other systems of learning that I kind of was unfamiliar with at the time, but also really learned because I love learning regardless. So I'm gonna be a student for my entire life, and I think being able to accept has been, I think, a really big strength, regardless of the challenges that I have faced with schooling. And more so when I was in community college and whatnot, and throughout my education, my biggest challenge, but also my biggest gift is, I guess, how my brain works. Also, I'd say, like, in the health setting, being diagnosed with ADD is like, it's a label, it's a description, but it's not necessarily something that I would feel always challenges. It also helps me, and helps me kind of stay outside of a box that I don't necessarily want to place myself into as far as the education system. So, but yeah, after that, I had a lot of challenge with the classroom setting in community college, especially, but also really enjoyed the learning. And then I decided that I wanted to travel, and the first places that I had ended up traveling were through the Seventh Adventist Church, when I was, you know, in high school, and singing has always been a big part of my life. So I actually got to tour around in a choir all over, like, the West Coast, but also ended up in Europe at one point and on tour in Europe as a teenager. Just like so not what you imagine, but it was like a bunch of choir nerds. But yeah, that I think that kind of sparked my my love for traveling. Also, I got a chance to be a missionary in Fiji as a teenager as well. So that was an interesting insight. Definitely sparked my love. So yeah, so I did that as the education, choosing to travel a lot for a couple of years, and then kind of back to take more classes, and I ended up studying at college here in Olympia, or kind of close to me, and I studied plant chemical biology.
Oh, cool. That's awesome.
Yeah, that was a lot.
No, that was awesome. Yeah, you kind of touched up on everything that we spoke about earlier. And yeah, and so I wanted to ask, what did you feel that school didn't prepare you for?
It's a good question. There's such a duality with it, honestly, that question. I'm like, I love school, but they did not prepare me for the first one. Like, when I went to Evergreen, intention was to study ceramics, and I had a class that I wanted to study. I wanted to do art, and I didn't get the classes, and I was like, what? And I had backup plans in case that happened. They warned me, they're like, you might not get classes because they're highly competitive. Okay, I'll be prepared for that. And then I was bummed that I didn't get into these classes, but also, you know, the path led a different way, and I ended up in psychology, and that was really, really inspiring, and I'm very grateful for that knowledge. So that was a challenge. Also, school did not necessarily prepare me for institutionalized racism and a system, and you know, every single system, but especially education as well, being white supremacist gaze. It was founded on that, and recognizing that over the last couple of years, my eyes open, have been really beneficial in my healing and my strength, and also my conviction to continue making art.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. And so I wanted to touch up a little bit on your travels because I love to travel. So I really, if you talk a little bit about the places you've traveled to, and then I'll ask you another question about that later. But it would just be so cool if you talk a little bit about the places you went to. I would.
Sure. Yeah. I love traveling too. Haven't been able to for a little bit here, and that's okay. You know, can travel inside as well.
Yeah.
I've been to 17, starting with Fiji, and then I wrote I'm gonna forget.
Can you repeat it one more time? You said 17 countries, right? You kind of cut off there.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, just I've been to 17 different countries so far in my life, and really thankful for that. Fiji being the first one, Mexico and Canada. When I was a choir nerd and tour in Europe, I went to England, France, Italy, Germany, Austria, Switzerland. Switzerland was my favorite, and I have a sister who actually lives in Switzerland now. I've been to Belize, Morocco, Spain, India, the Philippines, Hong Kong, Thailand, Guatemala, and I think that's it. Yeah. And then a ton of states. And yeah.
Awesome. And so I just think that's so amazing. I just love hearing when people talk about their travels. But yeah, so my question was, what countries do you feel inspired you the most to create clay, and why?
Yeah. At the time that I was in Fiji, I wasn't necessarily like, oh, what's the clay here? But studying later on in life, it turns out he has very rich history of clay making, and there are actually like sand dunes and clay deposits that have been there for a long time. So the indigenous community in Fiji has been using that clay for, I don't know, thousands of years, and you can watch YouTube videos process, and I don't know, reading into it has been really amazing, astounding from, you know, start to finish. It's such a process of like the collection of clay, and the processing of the clay, and then the shaping of the clay, and then the firing of the clay. Like it's this beautiful process start to finish. And oftentimes in Fiji and in other places in the world, it's the women who are the potters. Yeah. So I think that's pretty interesting to acknowledge and look at as well. But so Fiji is a really cool inspiration, especially because it's part of the Pacific Island as well. And we know that there was intermingling and travel between people have been trading for eons and eons. Like that history and that knowing of clay practice is shared knowledge, which is really beautiful. I'd say one of the other countries that really inspired me, and the first piece of pottery I actually ever purchased was in Morocco. And Morocco also has cool old history with clay making as well. I wish I had that piece to show you, but it's hiding away in the storage somewhere. But
Okay.
I visited a women's collective in Rabat, Morocco, when my sister was there, and I walked in and it's like floor to ceiling, covered in like beautiful pottery, like, and it's all clay that's been collected from various areas of the Sahara and the Rif Mountains in Morocco. And so the more that I'm learning about, ancestral clay practices and the more I'm researching into these topics, but really to see clay and just to be so drawn to it. Like at that time, I think it was 2010 that I went to Morocco, pretty sure. And just being able to see individual little marks of how these vessels were shaped was like really special to me. So that was Morocco. And there's also, it's just beautiful there. So lots of clay. Anywhere there's clay. So oftentimes deserts are, or once were, ancient oceans. So it leaves really good conditions for clay to form and really good workable clay. So that is one of the reasons why Morocco and Fiji have deep ancestral practices. And that's so true for many places in the world. Brings me to my next country, which is the Philippines. So that's my maternal side. I'm Ilokano, and to the Philippines for the first time in 2015, which was a very inspiring trip and life-changing trip altogether. But more so with the clay, I was heavily inspired there by taking a solo trip to the northern Philippines and visiting a museum called the Ben Cab Museum. And that was the first time I ever got to view artifacts from the Philippines. And that was really inspiring to see such amazing items, and especially not clay items, but weaving all of these different fibers and seeing what they were used for, which was for many purposes. Some were for food, some were for spiritual practice, and that was truly life-changing. So when I started making clay items, I kind of dedicated a lot of my practice to that as well. And actually, at some point in the future, like if I'm going to be selling my items, and especially if they're influenced by my experiences in the Philippines, I'd love to get part of whatever I might make in that way. So yeah, the Philippines is a big one. And the last one is actually Arizona. So that's in the US, but it feels like a completely there compared to the Pacific Northwest. There it's, ancient desert, and the clay relationship that people have had there is so old and so sacred. And going there, I also went to a lot of museums to study clay as well, and also reached out to a few different people, including an archaeologist who kind of led me to realize that the clay practices in, well, everywhere really, such an ancient practice. It's one of the first kind of forms of art that ever existed. But there's a lot of connection between practices in Arizona and in that region of the world and clay practices in the Philippines. And when you look at the symbols, there's just a lot of similarities. So I could go on and on about that, but I'll come.
Yeah, no worries. Thank you so much for sharing it. I felt like that was really important for you to talk about, because it has such a big impact with your art. So, that I got to ask you that question. And now, we get to move on to your artwork. So now you can share whatever you'd like, any art piece you would like to share. And I remember you said you wanted to do a tour of the workspace, and we're doing pretty good on time, so this is great. And
Cool.
before you share and say, I was gonna show you the your piece that I have. I love it so much, even more now that it's yours. Bath salts in there because my friend shipped me like a healing kit, and she put, I don't know, but it smells really good.
I love that.
Yeah, so thank you. I mean, again, I didn't know it was you, but I loved it from the moment I saw it, and Rebecca's like, "Do you want it?" I was like, "I really want it. I don't know why. It's speaking to me."
I love that. That item first. I'm just gonna check on sound. How can you hear me? Okay.
You hear what you said. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm getting a little glitch too, but hopefully that'll be okay. That item, I'm really inspired by ecology again. Like the in Hawaii, there's these pine trees that grow everywhere, and it's called a cook pine. And so the outside of that, I used the cook pine and like rubbed the cook pine on the top of it, so it gave that bumpy kind of structure. And yeah, I love those. They're indigenous to Hawaii, but they are quite cool and beautiful. Like, I loved making those. But yeah, so let's see. Since you were talking about Baby Yoda, do a Baby Yoda reveal. This is a commission project that I'm making for a dear friend, but he's pretty cute.
Oh my gosh, that is so cute.
I'm not going to show you his body because I'm going to close him, and we're just going to agree not to undress Baby Yoda because it's more like it's his structure to stand, not necessarily like a cute thing. But his face is pretty cute. I'm happy with how he turned out.
Aww.
His little teeth. Can you see?
Yes. Yeah. Oh my gosh, that is so cute.
Yeah. So I love working with tiny things. I keep it small, but I also love working with making larger pieces. But right now, living in a trailer and working predominantly out of my trailer, it's been small things. I've just like been real honest with myself and been like, you know what? Small space, small things. So, yeah. All right. Oh, this is another item that I just made. So glad I got these back to do this, but this is a fun one that I just made recently.
That's pretty cool.
Thank you.
That's
This is a clay form that it just involves like carving out the surface of the clay, and it's called Scrafito. And there's a really awesome artist named Gabriela Martinez, but her artist name is Gabo Martini, and she did a Scrafito class that I took, and what came out of that, which is super fun. And this is inspired by an image that I saw in Thailand. So yeah, I kind of relate to it.
I love it.
Yeah, thank you.
Oh, I think I froze.
Yeah, Video connection's not super great. This next item, can you see that? Yeah, I can't hear you very well, but can you hear me? Not if you can hear me. You can't hear me. So sad. Yeah, let's see. I don't know why you went mute, but that's okay. Why won't you work? Can you hear me? I can't hear you. Crap. No?
Sorry everybody, I froze. I don't know what happened. Hopefully Annea can join us real quick so we can finish off the artist talk. I am so sorry. That's on my bad. So let's see what happens. But that ceramic stuff looks so cool. And I froze in the middle of it. So frustrating. Hi Susanna. Thank you so much for watching. I love that you're in Korea and you're watching this. It makes me so happy. I miss you. Oh, my cousin says hi. Since. Yay! You're my new guest. I can interview you if you want sometime soon. I would love to. You have a really cool story. Let's just wait and see when she comes on. I will. She misses you a lot. She saw a photo of you and she was like, I remember her. Where is she? Yes, you do. But yeah, my cousin says she misses you a lot. She says she had a lot of fun with you when she went to Hawaii. You're reading children's writings. What time is it over there? I am actually interviewing a friend from Korea next week. Okay, she's on.
Creating children's writing. Oh, Susanna. It's 4 a.m. Oh my gosh. Sorry, my friend was messaging me right now. Oh my gosh, it's so early there. I'm so sorry I froze. Annea, forgive
That's
me.
okay. I love technology. It's all good.
Okay. The last thing I heard you talking about the image that you got from the Philippines, and then I froze. And then I just saw a glitch of like the circle one that you had. So I don't know if you want to show that one more time. That would be pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah. How's the video quality?
You
Doing
actually
okay?
sound a lot better, yeah. I think it might have been my phone this time.
Phew.
Yeah.
All right. It's just so appropriate that it glitched out because I'm the most low-tech person I know. But anyway,
Mm-hmm.
this item
Oh, cool.
is just a glazed little plate that I made recently. And I actually just use guava leaves, or in Filipino, they're called bayabas.
Mm-hmm.
And I got inspired by tea. That's another big inspiration. I use my little tea bits in the clay medium and impress them, and then remove the leaf, and it leaves that really beautiful impression.
Mm-hmm.
And I've seen that over the years. I'm like, oh, that's such a really interesting thing to kind of express into ceramics. And because I'm such an ecology and nature nerd, I'm in love with that. But when I was living in Hawaii, I actually realized, based off of some of the historical ceramic artifacts that they have from Fiji and from the Lapita peoples, that practice of imprinting leaves onto ceramics is just as ancient as the practice of humans and clay and that relationship.
Wow.
Yeah, so there's images of like Fijian potters impressing clay that was used to dry out salt for salt consumption.
Mm-hmm.
And they imprinted a type of leaf that might be in the hibiscus family onto their plate. And I was just like, oh, I love that that relationship is so old, and that is a practice that I continue to use today. So there's that. And let's see, what else? This was one of the first bowls that I fired outside of a kiln.
Mm-hmm.
So you can use a conventional kiln that's electric or propane, but I wanted to explore pit firing, mostly out of necessity, because when we went into shutdown back in, March, I didn't have access to a kiln at that time, and so I was creating pieces, but I was just like, well, I don't want to limit myself, so let's make a fire.
Yeah.
So that's one of the pieces that came out of the fire, and I was really excited with that process, and I'm excited to learn more about it. And there's many ways to do it, and it's been done in many ways historically. But yeah, that's one of those. This little baby slug.
Oh, so cute.
Also pit fire.
Oh my gosh.
Do you see him?
Yes, I can.
Yeah. He's
These
cute.
are so cute. I love them.
Yeah. So that's been really exciting to learn about pit fire, or seeing what other ways of firing there are aside from using an electric kiln, which I have. I have an electric kiln that a friend of ours is letting us borrow indefinitely, and it's super lovely, but I haven't had a chance to use it, so hopefully in the future I will learn how to be my own kiln technician.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's so cool. Yeah, I like zoomed in real quick because I was typing a question so I don't forget to ask you it. But yeah, so talk a little bit about your like how long it takes to complete and the process of the work. And I don't know if you wanted to do a quick tour of your studio while you answered the questions.
Yeah, of course. Yeah,
and the connection's really good right now, so
awesome. All right, so here I'm gonna go to the studio really quick. I'll be.
Yeah, I wanted to give a quick thank you to Susanna. Thank you for watching right away, even though it's 4 a.m. in Korea.
Oh my gosh, 감사합니다.
Thank you. But yeah, I'm excited to see your studio space.
Yeah. Let's see. All right. So here's my studio.
I love it.
I just put up the sign, which I love, and the hours of operation to help motivate me. But yeah, this is where I currently create. So welcome to the studio.
I love it.
This is where I work. Yeah, in this little spot right here. And I love it. But yeah, again, like I live in a trailer, and I had to be real with like where I was working. I don't have a physical studio, so I created one. Yeah.
So cool. It's so intimate too. I mean, I love that you're like
it's quiet.
It's nice.
Thank you. Yeah, so I'll show you around the studio really quick. Like this is where the cleanup happens, and like the moisture. This is like this is some of the tools that I use. So I don't always use ceramic tools. I use a lot of found objects as well. So this is actually a porcupine quill from Africa.
Oh, cool.
And that was given to me by a friend, and it's really great for making holes and pokey things. That's a piece of driftwood, and that I just use as a paddle oftentimes when I'm working with different items. And then, yeah, a good old ceramic tool. This one is one I use a lot. And this one's cool. I don't know if you can see the bottom of it, but it's a little ball on top. And that's the one that I used most for like this type of work. So
okay,
cool. Yeah. And I don't have the other tool in here right now that I used for that, but that's okay. And yeah, little knife. And that's basically the tour. When it gets, yeah, I like use a paintbrush when I'm like kind of sweeping. It's great.
I love it. I love it.
Yep. There's my list of ceramics I want to do, hopefully in the future. Yep. So that's that.
Cool. And so do you want to talk a little bit about how the process of making your ceramic is?
Sure. Let's see. So the first part is selecting your clay. And right now I'm just working with what I have, which is, I have quite a variety of things right now. I think I have one that's kind of a stoneware, which is for harder ceramics, and that's good for making vessels and utilitarian ware. I have paper clay, which is weird and cool. It's like just clay fiber that's infused into clay, and that helps the plasticity of the clay, so you can make really tiny things. That's what Baby Yoda's made out of. Paper clay. Yeah. But this is if you were gonna go to like a pottery supply store. And pre-made clay. I think the next endeavor that will be happening, maybe when the weather's a bit warmer over here, is finding my own clay out in eastern Washington in the desert, and I'll take my with that. But yeah, learning how to process the clay that is from the land and working with that is a whole nother journey within itself that I'm gonna be going on. But for now, it's clay that I've purchased. So after you buy the clay, you shape the clay into whatever it is that you're wanting to make, whether it's like, you know, a slug or something like a bowl. Sometimes that process takes time to let it dry a little bit, and then build more on it after that. And then you wait for it to dry for, like, depending on your climate and how cold it is there, it'll take like up to a week to dry sometimes if it's a big item. And then at that point, I will either throw it into a pit and fire it in wood fire, or I will get to a kiln or a kiln technician. So lately, I've met a really cool lady in India, and she lets me fire in her studio. So, and then after that, it's not quite done. Sometimes if I want to choose and put a glaze on one of my ceramic items, like this one, see the back? Oh, it doesn't have any shiny glaze on it, and then the front. So the first fire will produce what's called the fire, and after that, after it's been baked and is now a porous kind of body of clay, then you can put glaze on. And then if you want to glaze it, you glaze it, and then after that, fire it again and hope it turns out.
And hope for the best. Yeah,
it's such a practice of like non-attachment. Like I acknowledge that this art form is very fragile, but also it even in like in pieces, it withstands time, which is like the most amazing thing to me, is that like shards of pottery are saved and found in like ancient places where, you know, our all of our ancestors once lived, and that we're able to derive so much from pieces of pottery like that, and that to this day we have such a thriving, amazing, yeah, you can basically do whatever you want with clay at this point, and it all started like with civilization. So
Yeah. So thank you so much for sharing that. I actually was gonna ask um where you get your glazes from, but I'll answer that later. That's the question part. I'm getting I'm getting a little ahead of myself. But yeah, and so I think I think before we get to the question, so I wanted to ask if you're working on oh wait, how long? You said it takes a while for it to complete, but are you working on any new projects at the moment?
Yeah, probably the most meaningful of all projects taken, and those projects are really important to me because it revolves around cultural revival work, and with um, cultural revival work being done in the Philippines in particular. And um, I'll also say too that I've not been alone in that process ever. So I am my own artist, you know, doing my nerdy clay thing. But on top of that, with this type of work, I've had a lot of help and inspiration, and I wouldn't be able to have done the pieces that I've done without the knowledge and background that a lot of cultural practitioners before me have provided. And shout out to Rebecca, because on that too, and that's been such a load of inspiration, and I just love her. So I will say, I'll show you this piece, and this was the first vessel I made. So, you know, I'm in no way an expert, and I don't claim to be. And I'm just, you know, a ceramic nerd. I trust that the community that I'm, you know, trying to be a part of, and, you know, expressing a love for, and like gaining this deep understanding and knowledge from, like, if I mess up with something, that I trust that I'll have help, that, you know, that won't be a factor that'll hinder me, you know. That we're all here to learn from each other.
Of
so
course.
This is a pot.
It's so cute.
An item that's currently at the Field Museum in Chicago, and a cultural practitioner named Lane Wilkin sent me because he was allowed access to the Field Museum archives. So I'm honored that he was able to send me those items so that I could recreate pieces of pottery that exist in the archives that aren't necessarily always available for show. And, you know, seeing an image, you know, in IRL, you know, instead of seeing it through a photograph is, I think, so meaningful. And so kind of this has been going on for about a year or so, of me studying a couple of different artifacts and whatnot. But this basically, I'm making bootleg artifacts. And that whole concept is really hilarious to me, but also it kind of brings up the question of, like, you know, why are these artifacts, you know, in possession of the museum versus possession of, like, the culture that the artifacts are from and whatnot. I'm really grateful for museums, but there is a lot of undoing and unlearning that I feel needs to happen. apart. And in relation with us as well, like, because I'm here doing my ceramic thing in my very beginning stages of like making, but also, yeah, I owe a huge amount of thanks to those cultural practitioners who are helping me, and yeah, being able to do this work, because like I feel it's important for people to see something and have it be a really tactile item to study and whatnot. So yeah,
Thank you for doing it.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I like it. It's so cute. And it was your first one, right? First one ever?
Yeah, and there's a lot of things going on with it, and yeah, when I was studying like how to make the neck of a piece of pottery, essentially, I was just like, oh, how did they do it? And there's many different ways that you can make it, and I kind of made my own way, and I'm
Love
like
it.
from it.
I love that you did your
Yeah, so that was fun. But like the shape of the neck, that angle actually dictates whether or not it was used for cooking, whether it was used for carrying things, whether it was used for holding liquid, like just based on the angle of the neck. So that's like somebody's whole dissertation right there. The neck of the pottery.
cool.
Yeah.
Thank you for did you talk about any other art pieces before we move on to the next questions?
Huh. Um There is, well, I'll speak to it more. I was gonna maybe Instagram post about it at some point when I'm ready, but yeah, a lot of the items that have been studied, not just at the Field Museum, but like at many museums, are of spiritual significance. And those ones I spend a lot more time with and put, yeah, I hold ceremony when I create those artifacts, and not that I don't hold ceremony for all of my creations, but especially ones of that depth. It's important that I proceed and think about honoring the original maker and maybe the intent that went into making these pieces and these items that are so sacred. So I I really, I think, would like to see more of them in circulation and more stories being told about these vessels, because right now it seems like, they're just in storage, which is interesting and fine, and they're being cared for, yes, but then also people don't know about them.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for all of this. And I feel so bad that I got cut off. It makes me a little bit sad. But it's also good because you have a little bit more time to continue with the questions. So my following question to you is, how do you feel being a female artist? And I appreciate you for watching all the artist talks because you've heard these answers before. But yeah, can definitely elaborate more, and like I've said in other talks, it's a question of if you've ever felt if you've ever not felt supported, or if you've ever been harassed. You know, it's a long laundry list. It's a very big question, but if you feel comfortable answering it, please do. And I liked your answer. I mean, people don't know what your answer is yet, but I appreciated your answer.
Yeah, it's a good question to address. I personally love being a female, and that's how I feel in my body. I feel feminine. Um, and that being said, it's been a challenge at times. I wouldn't say that it's necessarily a challenge that I've come across with just like a male presence. Like there have been times when I've had, you know, uncomfortable interactions with, you know, women as well. But when it comes to, you know, meeting someone for the first time, I feel like we're all very powerful beings.
Yeah.
And I acknowledge that and try my best to respect that, and also to be, yeah, don't abuse your power. That's just kind of the takeaway, and as simple as I can put it. Also, oftentimes, because like I'm a mixed blended kid, like I people can't categorize me immediately, so oftentimes I'll get, the first question will be like, are you Native American? And you know, that assumption is, you know, it's kind of an assumption that could be plausible because, you know, I'm from the Pacific Northwest. I'm a brownish person. You can't quite, like, I braid my hair, but I'm not Native American, you know. There's, you know, various reasons why I look the way I do, but like the challenge I struggle with the most is when people call me exotic, and I'm like, I'm from the Pacific Northwest. Like, I was born and raised in Washington State. There ain't nothing really exotic about me, and just the way people use that word is could be re-examined. And I really can't remember the Instagram presence who said this beautiful quote, but I'll quote it and we'll hopefully be able to find it later. But it basically just says like, I'm not exotic, I'm exhausted.
Yeah.
I'm exhausted because I don't know, like, yeah, people get mixed, and that's another layer of, you know, the delusion of white supremacy, and not taking into account that we're all indigenous from somewhere. We all came from somewhere, of some original peoples. So yeah, the fact that our very existence is based on such a society that lives in that delusion is interesting. So yeah, I walk through life holding my head high, and I also am proud of who I am, and I also accept that there are challenges around that. Yeah.
Thank you.
But being a woman is awesome, and being an artist woman is awesome, and I'm very happy for that.
It is awesome. It is. And I appreciate you so much for saying that. And then, you know, we went on a whole talk about that whole word exotic, and then I'll share with you something somebody told me once about exotic, but maybe later. I want to finish your artist talk first. But yeah, again, thank you for answering that question. Because I feel like it's really important for women to answer it, especially to come together as artists. And also, thank you for saying that you have uncomfortable interactions with other women as well, not just a man, because
Speak to that more too if we have time.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
The one kind of scenario that came up was there's a woman and she's like, oh, cool ceramics, cool. And then she's like, I do ceramics. And then she's like turned to her partner or the person that she was with, and she's like, I could do this better than that. And I was just like, yeah, you could, but you're not.
Wow. Oh my God.
Yeah, just when you're viewing someone's art, it's like, yeah, you could be doing this too. And if that gives you joy, I totally hope that you can. I totally hope that you do. But the fact is that that artist standing with you, or that piece of art that's being represented somewhere, somebody put their heart and love and effort into that. And yeah, that's all.
Wow.
True respect.
I'm sorry somebody said that to you. I think that's so rude. That's
And
so
but I heard it. But
yeah.
also, like, I don't know. I'm gonna continue doing art either way, so it's okay. And
Exactly.
also, I accept that I am a beginner ceramic artist and that there's a world of ceramics to learn, and I will never know all that there is to learn, and that's okay.
Exactly. It is.
Yeah.
And so we're almost done, and then we can get to the question. How are you taking care of yourself physically and emotionally during this time?
Drinking lots of tea. Um, some days I win, some days I lose with that practice. Some days I'm a mess. Some days I like really excel in the things I want to do. Um, keeping up a meditation practice has been key. Meditation for me doesn't necessarily always mean I'm like sitting on the ground cross-legged with my eyes closed. Like my meditation like has various forms. Sometimes it's doing the dishes. Sometimes it's like this morning it was playing with my dog outside and like hucking a lacrosse stick with a like a toy hedgehog in it. Like
Yeah.
that's meditation sometimes, you know? And yeah, being okay with that is wonderful. Yeah. And then also like, I don't know, sometimes I've heard like a lot of people like calling out like how bored they are. And I'm like, curiosity is the cure to boredom. It really is.
It
Like
really is.
there's so much to explore and delve into. Like, yeah, that's
I agree.
that's kind of what keeps me sane is that there's always something to explore and do or learn about, you know?
Yeah.
There's
Thank you for saying that.
yeah,
Yeah. I think I'm gonna start saying that. Curiosity is the cure to boredom. That's really good.
a good quote. I don't know where I picked it up from. So I would quote them, but I don't know. Yeah.
Okay, and thank you again for that. And so my last question,
Mm.
and then we'll open it up for the audience to ask questions, is what is your advice that you would like to give to artists?
Mm. Never give up. Um, yeah, I think just know if you're in love with art that you should continue to practice it and yeah, possess the things that you need and don't be hard on yourself. Like it's a beautiful thing that humans do and oftentimes I think that it's not, you know, placed very high on whatever pedestal that we're trying to categorize things on, and that's okay. And just keep doing it.
Perfect. Perfect advice. So that
Oh,
are those.
and don't forget that you're badass. Just don't.
I love it. Yes. And then I mean, that's all the questions I have for you. And I appreciate you so, so much for joining. I mean, I have more questions, but I want to leave it open for audience. Um, but yeah, I just thank you so much for joining, Annea. You're so awesome. You're a badass.
It's an honor, honestly, and it's so nice to meet you and like form a through art. And you know,
Exactly. Yeah.
for those who are out there, like we met through Kiki, who's also an amazing, incredible artist who has an artist talk as well with Brenda. So you should definitely check that out.
Mm-hmm.
And then I met Kiki through Rebecca, who is also an artist based on Oahu.
Yes.
But she's about to go to Japan, and I'm so
No,
proud of her.
Becca. She also has an artist too.
Oh, what?
Oh,
And she
she
also,
also has an artist. Yeah.
so yeah, listen into those. All of them are I haven't had a chance to listen to all of them yet, but I'm on my way.
Yeah. So if anybody has any questions for Annea, please feel free to ask right now. The floor is for the audience. If not, I actually have a few more questions for you. I
Awesome.
learned so much about you today.
Aw, thank you. Yeah, I'm excited to learn more about you too and your art as well and your photography, which is
Oh,
amazing.
thank you. Thank you. Aw, I love you, T.
We love you.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
I see some more artists in here too. I see She Wolf Tattoo, who is my dear friend Brandy out of
Oh,
Vancouver. And I see Shayla
green.
Daddy Wampus, who is also a really amazing artist in the Seattle area, and my homie.
Oh, how fun. Yeah, if anybody wants to ask her any questions, please do.
Mm-hmm.
Do you mind if I ask you one more while we wait for people to ask some
Oh,
questions?
yeah, go for it.
So, I actually have two while people ask some more questions. Can you talk a little bit more about what the difference between an electric kiln and then pit firing a ceramics is? Because I think I've heard of a pit fire, but I've never heard of like how the process goes.
Yeah. I can definitely speak to that. I'm still learning as well, like how to fire ceramics in a way that the fire will get hot enough to actually, bake them into solid form.
Mm-hmm.
And that, yeah, the pit fire versus an electric kiln, um, there's a heat source, but it's derived differently. One's
Yeah.
from wood fuel, or oftentimes it'll be like, depending on where the fire is taking place, it's basically whatever fuel is available to you. Like in
Mm-hmm.
India, use like cow dung, and other various places they use like the dung from animals that like eat grass, and grass in itself, like once digested, is like a really solid heat source that burns really slowly and really hot. So there's dung, there's wood, there's grass, there's other things, whatever other organic matter is near you. Yeah, people will burn out. I don't necessarily recommend this, but people will like bake ceramics out of like a tire, like a rubber tire and stuff. Like there's
Oh, wow.
practice also in that case they're using what they're given.
Mm-hmm.
And, yeah, an electric kiln basically, or to my understanding of it, it's there's an electric coil that goes throughout the kiln itself, and then that is housed by fire brick. So the
Mm-hmm.
fire brick is like helps conduct a really warm central heat. So if you want, very like really good outcomes and not have to do the nature versus nurture thing, wonder if your things are going to come out of the fire, like the electric kilns, pretty safe in that regard. But
Oh,
yeah.
I saw a question before. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but there's one that's, does working in a tiny trailer with an enormous dog ever present issues?
That's a delightful question, Shayla. It does. Like, my life is in constant motion all the time, and I have a son who happens to be a giant, hairy German Shepherd, and it's very, very loving and requires attention all the time. And that's why I took him like to go, play this morning, or else he was going to be like, I'm cooped up in the RV, let me out, like during the interview. And I'm like, I
Yeah.
can't. But yeah, like, yeah, uh, that's a thing. Traveling is a thing. Like trying to find time when you also need to like pump out the water that you've been housing when you wash dishes or anything like that. Like, yeah, it's a balance of time, and it's just kind of the way of life that I've chosen to live. And it has like a lot of things. Oh my gosh. Actually, yeah, since you brought up like having a giant German Shepherd in an RV, like he totally incorporated himself in this piece. If you can see this tiny little bit of hair that like his hair embedded into the clay when I was painting the underglaze. And so you a little dog hair in this piece, and it looks kind of like there's a little hair out of place of this figure of fun or something. Like, yes, it's very much a part of my process, whether I know it or not, or like it or not. I accept it for what it is.
Yes. Cool. And then She Wolf Tattoo asked the question, what colors are produced from the natural clays you find in Washington? That's a good question.
That's a very, very good question. There's a lot of pigment here. So a whole nother topic is the collection of clay and where you collect it from. Like if you're collecting it in Western Washington versus Eastern Washington, like geologically speaking, Eastern Washington is kind of a desert, and it's also like part of an ancient seabed, I believe, as well. And the canyons that form around the river, such as the Yakima Canyon, form in a similar way to the Colorado River Canyon in Arizona. And that means that you can find different deposits of clay from different eras in time versus in Washington, Western Washington. Like if you're looking on the coast of one of our islands, like I'm close to Harsting Island right now, and I'm using that as that's where I found this type of clay, is a really gray looking clay. And so the color that you would get from a gray clay versus more of a yellow toned clay in Eastern Washington is that when you fire it, you would get something that is going to turn out maybe a little more white in like or lack of color, and then the yellow clay will maybe produce something brown. So that's I really want to explore more when I start my own clays. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, there's a lot to say about that.
Then we have a question from my friend. Do you feel like the limitations of your space work acid or inspiration? That's a really good question, Susanna. Thank you.
That is a good question. Thank you for saying that. It's both. I try not to let it be a limitation. I don't know if you got to see my studio or not, but I work out of a little box with a wax cloth lining it, and that means that making giant pieces, or larger pieces, not even giant pieces, like even like, vessels, things like that, it does limit me to size because clay is like mud and gets everywhere. So the smaller I can do that, the cleaner I can keep my workspace in my home that I reside in. Yeah, thank you for that. That is an important one. Like I've been doing this for 3-ish years now, and I've never worked out of a ceramic studio space really, or had that space available. So I've just set up wherever I set up, and oftentimes that's a kitchen table. And that's pretty much the case here. So yeah, but I do know that I'm never going to stop making ceramics. Like I found this passion and this love, and I didn't do it for such a long time that I'm just so excited to continue creating in this way and learning and sharing too. I'd love to like share all I know and teach at some point. That'd be fun.
That would be fun. And then I think we have time for one more question. I actually have another question. How did you meet Rebecca?
I met Rebecca through a friend in Seattle. So they were moving to Hawaii, I believe, at the time, and we ended up meeting at Awaiwai, which is a kava bar and a really cool community space. And that's where I met Rebecca. And then I just happened to randomly run into her after that when I was vending ceramics at a market. And
wow.
she was like, come hang out at my studio at UH Manoa and let's talk about art. And that's what we did with another artist that is truly inspiring too, my good friend Miriam Zora Engel. So we went and hung out with her in her studio space and have been nerding out about art ever since. And yeah, she's also part of an organization that is helping people learn the Ilokano language. So I'm part of that class as well, and eternally grateful for that. So that's been really enriching. Yeah.
Awesome. All right. Well, if anybody else has any more questions for Annea, ask now, because then I think I don't want Instagram to cut us off anytime soon. I would really hate that, especially because your answers are so nice. And answers, I really appreciate that. It might just be me, but I really like long answers.
Thank you. Yeah, I can be definitely long-winded, which is not a bad thing sometimes. But yeah, I feel like I could talk for days about clay and just, yeah, I'm also always asking questions too. We need to find different answers. Like, oh, there's so much. There's, this is a whisper and I don't have any scientific information or reports to back it up, but it looks like there are fire pits that are Polynesian style fire pits that are found in areas of Arizona by the Colorado River.
Oh,
and
wow.
The interesting thing that I've been kind of poking into again with that relationship between ancient peoples and who was hanging out where. And yeah, it's like these fire pits in particular are different than the ones that are used by the indigenous peoples of that area. So it suggests that there were ancient Polynesian peoples visiting or living there at one point and also producing pottery. So blows my mind.
That's so cool.
Mm-hmm.
And then the last question, I saw Kiki had one. This will be the last one, and then we'll end the talk here. But Kiki asks, what is your coloring process for ceramics?
I chose my favorite colors, and then I went with it. So you can do underglazes, and there's a variety of colors that are already mixed for you. So in my glaze journey, which is a whole nother world of ceramics, right? Like shaping is one, glazing is like huge. She's laughing. But, yeah, I just chose my favorite colors and hoped that they worked. And oh my gosh, I'm gonna run and grab it really quick if we have time. But I have a color palette that I made.
Oh,
and then it kind of realize what colors end up. I'm underneath my kitchen table right now. Okay. Oh, and this is easy, by the way. My son. Okay. Real quick. I don't know how much time we have left. But basically, these are some of the glazes that I have currently. So these are underglazes, and it helps me see what the colors will look like on this particular type of clay, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And these are just regular glazes, for lack of a better term, and they go on. These ones you can do in the first fire, the bisque fire, but then if you want more of the glass kind of finish on there, that happens.
I
Yeah.
didn't know that.
So yeah, I kind of, in this little, you know, splash of ceramics here, like I just kind of experiment with what different texture will look like and color. So yeah, good question, Kiki.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I actually didn't know that because I took ceramics before and they told me that, you know, you make the clay, the shape, and you don't glaze it, you let it fire first, and then after you fire it, then glaze it. So you said that you can glaze it and fire it the first time? That's cool.
You can underglaze it for the first time, depending on the underglaze. So that is an option, which is what I think I did here. Yeah, I painted it when it was still greenware, or, you know, dry clay, unfired dry clay. And then, yeah, I put the underglaze on, fired it. And then for the glossy part, I put the gloss or the glaze on after and then fired it again. So yeah, a process indeed.
Yeah, thank you so much for showing this, and thank you, Kiki, for answering the question.
Thank you, Kiki.
Oh my gosh. But yeah, so I think we're all with the talk. Thank you so much for doing this, Annea. I'm so happy I got to interview you today.
Me too. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for allowing me to be part of these artist talks. It's beautiful. And keep it up.
Yeah. And then for whoever whoever missed it, I'll have it up, and then I'll download it and send it to you today, hopefully. If not, by the weekend.
Sounds good. Cool. Well, thank you so much, everybody who joined
Alrighty,
in
well,
too,
thank you
and
so
for
much.
all of the
Oh yeah.
much love, guys. Have a good day. Thank you so much.
All right, bye.
Bye.